Alafia. Hi everyone, welcome to the mindofro page. So I haven't made a live video in a while because I just got recently initiated, and I also just got back into town. I was visiting my daughter that I haven't seen her in 18 years, and it was a beautiful experience. I made a live video recently on um, reuniting with her finally, and it was beautiful, very emotional video. For the last few videos, for the last few videos that I've been making, it has been actually focused on how to work with the Netaru and the Orishas and how to balance our energy centers. And I was working on that for 7 whole days. And the last week was actually the week before I got initiated. So today I'm going to make a video on my experiences of going through initiation, not only actively being in initiation, but also the outside life of it, like what I went through prior to going through initiation, the difference of being initiated, not being initiated. I'm going to talk to you about all the ups and downs of my experiences. No, this is all my personal experiences. This doesn't mean that everybody else goes through this, but I'm just going to open up and share with all my followers what my experience has been. So, because I am initiated now, my name now is Obajaguna, or you could call me Ifa Titilayo. I did get my hand in Ifa, and I was initiated into Obatala. And before I get started, I want to thank everybody who has been around during this process of mine. I especially want to thank my spouse, Kebra. He introduced me into the practice of Ifa. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be where I am today. And of course, I want to thank my Baba for initiating me, because of course I wouldn't be initiated if it wasn't for him. He is now another father to me, and it's nice to know that he will be there no matter what for the rest of my life. And that's what I like about this practice, is that when you do get initiated, the people you were initiated by will be there forever. No matter what you go through and no matter what happens, they're there for you. And I think that's a beautiful practice. I also want to thank my godmother who was there. We had great conversations when we were alone during the process when the men were kind of gone, where I had some deep conversations of, the ups and downs of being initiated. And I felt like she really understood me out of everybody. She was definitely nice to have around as a female aspect, to be able to understand what it's like to be a female and to be initiated, and to also be light-skinned and be initiated into this practice as well. So I really appreciate her support, and I appreciate the fact that the universe and the Orisha has brought me somebody who I could speak to, who would understand me at a much deeper level. And of course, I want to support everybody who was there for me, everybody who showed up to my initiation, everybody who supports me. I appreciate all of you. My coworker showed up. One of my best friend's mother, my stepdad who raised me since I was 6 years old. He came all the way to Washington from the East Coast to come watch me get initiated, even though he doesn't follow what I follow. He is a Christian man, so I really appreciate the fact that he still came and supported my higher purpose and my journey from his background of being a Christian. I really appreciate the fact that I was raised by somebody who could have that background yet still support my journey on practicing these practices without being judged. And I really appreciate it. I have been blessed to be able to have somebody like that around me. Of course, a lot of people would like to have somebody around who practices indigenous practices, but it's really hard to find people who have been raised up in a dogmatic society or a dogmatic culture, and actually be able to still support. So, I mean, a lot of us have been raised by people who aren't very supportive of practicing these indigenous practices. So I'd have to say I'm very blessed to be raised up by a man that my mother married when I was six to support me in my journey, no matter what background that he comes from, and I really appreciate it a lot. I especially want to thank Shango. Shango is an Orisha, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be going through this process. If you're not sure who Shango is, I made a video recently on who Shango is. Shango is the king Orisha of lightning and thunder, and he was actually the first Orisha I've ever met. I've never heard of Orishas prior to him. I didn't know how strong they were, the concept of them, until I was sleeping on my spouse's couch when we first met, and I kept hearing a word. Somebody keeps saying Shango, 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 and no, I was home alone at this time when this happened. There was nobody here with me. And I kept hearing Shango, Shango, Shango. And then later on, I found out that Shango was an Orisha, and finally later on, I think it was a couple weeks later, I decided to meditate in front of Shango's altar, and Shango told me to meet all the Orishas and even meet all of the unpopular Orishas, and that's one of my major purposes right now is to be able to meet all the even the unpopular Orishas and share the information, all the Orishas, all the information that people are not sharing, and that's a big part of my purpose right now. So thank you, Shango. He's actually sitting right next to me right now, his altar. So thank you, Shango, for introducing me to the Orishas and helping me tap into that power of having the ability to be able to communicate with the Orishas in the first place, being able to hear them, see them, feel them, and get messages from them prior to being initiated. And of course, I want to thank Obatala for choosing me as one of his children. When I first found out I was a child of Obatala, I was unsure. I wasn't too familiar with who Obatala was, but since I've been initiated and Obatala has been around a lot, Obatala is the Orisha of the white cloth. He is associated with justice and peace, the very most peaceful Orisha there is known to be. And I really want to thank Obatala for choosing me to be one of his children. So this is actually why I'm bald right now. I am bald and my head is shaved because I was crowned Obatala. But before I get too started in my experiences, I want to just let you know, if you love my videos, please support my videos and subscribe to my YouTube channel at mindofro. I also have a TikTok and a Twitter and Instagram at the Mind of Ro. And don't forget to hit that notification bell on YouTube so you can be notified every time I have more wisdom and love to share with you. So that being said, my experience with being initiated. So the first initiation I went through was actually I got my hand in Ifa. What this means is I get my warriors, as in what it means is that I get protection through living the straight path. So if you're not familiar, the straight path means basically, so when we go through life, before we came to this planet, we have a higher purpose. Every single one of us has a soul purpose on why we are here. So we, being born on this planet, we obviously know there's a lot of problems that happen to pop up in our life. And what happens is when we run into these problems or misfits is we tend to go around in circles or go backwards and then forward and this way and that way instead of going down the straight path. So getting my hand in Ifa basically means that I'm going to go down the straight path, and I have warrior spirits that are there to protect me, to clear my path, and to shoot me through this path, and to help fight my fights for me so I don't have to anymore. Basically, as what that means. So my personal experience of when I first got my hand in Ifa, I'm actually going to go before that. So before I got my hand in Ifa, I didn't know I was dealing with this at the time until after I went through this, is that a lot of times we are associated with frenemies, what we call them. I had a lot of frenemies in my life. I've had a few people who acted like they were supportive of me and who I am. And as I started to get on the path of my higher purpose, I realized people try to stop me, as in people try to influence me to go another way. They were really fearful and give me really horrible advice. They would get angry at me for not doing whatever it is that they think that I should do. I've noticed a lot of people would put me into a box and try to tell me I need to do this and do that. And I'm sharing this information because I know I'm not the only one who's going through this. From my experience of finding myself, this is a Kemetic saying. It's to know thyself. To know thyself is to know thy path and to be able to live on by that path and to do whatever it takes to stay on that path. So from my personal experience, I've realized that once I found that path, a lot of people that I thought were supportive weren't as supportive as I thought they were. And I'm not saying they were purposely trying to get in my way, because a lot of times people will get in your way and they're not even mindful of being in your way. They don't even realize that they're saying things that's actually biased, or that they're actually saying things that's based off their personal illusion, or they're not even aware that they're putting you into a box. Some of these people who are telling you to do something other than what you want for yourself are people who are actually believe that they're helping you. So I'm not saying that there's these people who are frenemies are leading us purposely on the wrong way. Maybe some people are purposely leading us the wrong way because they're haters. I don't know. But a lot of times, sometimes they don't even realize what they're doing. They are stuck in their own issues and they have some things going on within their life that they haven't healed from. Therefore, they reflect those issues onto you. So this is an experience that I've had before I got my hand in Ifa, is I've come to realize a lot of people will try to put you in a box and they think they know what's best for you. And then if you try to leave that box that they delusionally put you in, they'll get upset or be like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing this because I think this is where you should be. And when we associate with a lot of people that do that, and then we care too much about what everybody thinks and stuff like that, well, I can't go this way because of this person might think this and this and that. We got to be really careful with that because a lot of the times when people do that, it basically means they don't know where they're supposed to be at in life. And they will reflect that illusion onto you. That if they're not sure what their higher purpose is, they're definitely not going to know what your higher purpose is. I mean, even when you do find your higher purpose, you still don't have all the details of your higher purpose. Therefore, nobody on this planet has any right to be telling you what direction you should or shouldn't be going unless you're speaking to a diviner who's actually speaking to the other side and actually really tapping into a universal, spiritual, non-physical deity who could actually communicate and say, what was your soul contract prior to coming to this planet? So this is what I've learned, that before I got my hand in Ifa, I've noticed I was fighting with people a lot. I'm sure some of it has to do with the fact that I did come out of an abusive relationship about a year ago, and a lot of times when you're a very abused person, we tend to really fight with people if we sense any kind of abusive behavior in anybody else, even if it's very minute, that it's hard for us to be able to handle our emotions and stuff like that. That can be a part of it, but another part of it is something that I realized when I spoke to other people before they went through initiation, and a lot of people has been through the same concept that I have been through, that the Orishas will push people away from you that are not good for you. And they not only do it through the universal code, as in something like, let's say, for example, somebody might be trying to come over to your house to disturb you, to argue with you. Something crazy can happen, like they might actually end up getting into a car accident. Say they might actually end up getting a call from somebody else that will actually sidetrack them and make them have to go do something else. They might actually just get distracted. They might take a wrong turn. You know what I'm saying? Something might happen. Or the Orishas will work through you and help you realize how bad this person is in your life, and they'll push you to push that person away from you. And I've noticed a lot of that happening prior to me getting my hand in Ifa. For those of you who are just tapping in, my hand in Ifa is when I got my warriors, as in my warriors to protect me from any toxic energies and stuff. But I realized that Orishas and the Netaru and Loa, any non-physical spirits, are beyond space and time. Therefore, they knew I was about to get initiated. So I was actually going through my initiation process prior to me even being initiated. Way before I was being initiated. Everything from going through my breakup to meeting Kepra to pushing away toxic people out of my life. This is what I went through prior. I felt like it was almost like a tornado going through my life. It was basically a tornado that went through my life that was taking everything away from me that doesn't serve me and then reserving me what does serve me. And I was going through this prior to getting my hand in Ifa. So once I did get my hand in Ifa, I was actually a lot more familiar with the warrior spirits, because I'm sure if anybody have been following me, I've been sharing a lot of videos on warrior spirits and Orishas and speaking with them and stuff like that. So I'm actually a little more advanced than most people who are initiated, because I was actually speaking with the Orishas, and I have the ability, the psychic ability, to be able to speak to Orishas prior to ever being initiated. So I actually went through a lot of the situations prior to even getting my warriors. But once I did get my hand in Ifa, I did realize that, so because I got out of an abusive relationship, It was pretty bad. He actually threw me on the ground, and I ended up tearing my rotator cuff, and I ended up getting a concussion. And I've been going through physical therapy it's been like 2 years since this has happened to me, and I've been going through physical therapy and a lot of issues with my post concussion syndrome, where for a while I was stuttering a lot or forgetting what I'm trying to say in the middle of a sentence because I hit my head, or struggling with trying to remember a lot of things, even remembering words, or struggling with trying to explain what I'm thinking. The process of trying to get my information from my head out of my mouth was a major struggle for me. And if anybody of you has ever had a concussion, the side effects of that is usually when we were struggling with trying to get the information from our brain out of our mouth, it can be very frustrating and emotional. And I've met a few other people who's been through the same process. That when you go through a concussion, it's normal to feel angry and frustrated when you're trying to communicate something and you can't get it out. So it's normal for your emotions to get really, rise really high, really fast, because it's basically your brain telling you, okay, this is what you're supposed to say and this is what you're thinking, but for some reason you can't. So it's normal to get really frustrated. So for the longest time, I was getting really frustrated with not being able to remember what I'm trying to say, not being able to say what I want to say, and knowing exactly what I want to say, but not being able to get it out of my mouth with the correct words that I want to use. And it's almost like feeling like I was stuck in a box and I couldn't get the words out of the box. If that makes any sense, it almost feels like when you have a concussion or post concussion, it almost feels like you're in a cage or like a prison of your own thoughts, and you can't share it, and it's very frustrating. Since I got my hand in Ifa, I feel like a lot of those feelings went away. I feel like my struggle of trying to explain what I'm thinking really has healed a lot. I don't stutter nearly as much as I used to. When it first happened, I was stuttering constantly. I was pausing constantly. I was getting very emotional with with my words I'm trying to get out. And ever since I got my hand in Ifa, I don't feel like that anymore. I feel like, and it happened so fast. Like once it happened, it was like the next day I was like, boom, this is gone. Like almost like it didn't even exist. And something really magical happened while I was getting in the middle of. So it was a 3 day process. So one of the days when I was getting initiated, there was a part where they were making offers to Eshu Alegba. If you're not sure who that is, you could go on my YouTube videos and I explain who Eshu Alegba is. There was a moment to where they called him in and to call his energy down, and I felt like the pressure on my arm completely just lifted away. And I don't know if any of you ever deal with a lot of constant physical pain or anything like that, or chronic pain, but sometimes when you have a lot of chronic pain, you forget what it's like to not have chronic pain because you just adapt to it and you kind of live with it all the time. Until I'm sure you know that if you've ever got a cortisone shot, that like once you get a cortisone shot, you're like, oh, so this is what it's like to feel normal again. It feels great, but you don't. But when you're hurting and you've been hurting for so many years, you don't. You get so used to it that you don't know what it feels like to be normal until you're normal. So when I was at initiation and they were doing some offers and they were calling down Eshu, all of a sudden I felt so much pressure just lift off of my arm, and I felt like I was pain free for like 2 hours during this initiation process. And I wish it would have lasted longer, but it was nice to know how it felt to feel normal again. And then later on, when I brought it up to one of the priests, they basically broke it down and said it's because our portal was open, and I was basically on another dimension or at another time where my body wasn't hurt in another dimension at another time, and that's what I was feeling at that time, and that's exactly why the pain went away for those 2 hours. But these are just like some magical moments that happened to me since I got my hand in Ifa. I'm sure you could tell I'm telling the truth. I'm not making this up. This really happened. And I got initiated with a couple other of my Ifa brothers I got initiated with. I would like to talk to them some more. I haven't really talked to them since then. I would like to know what kind of experiences they went through. But these are mine. I'm gonna move on though. So I want to speak to everybody about not only like the good things that I went through during my initiation. I'm gonna talk to you about my hand in Ifa, which I just basically broke down everything with that. I want to mention and talk about how my experience is to be initiated into Obatala. That was a totally separate initiation, and also the downfalls of them, some things that I've dealt with. So a lot of times when we see priesthoods, we think like everything's gonna be perfect and angels and flowers and unicorns and everything's gonna be magical and everything's gonna be perfect, and it's not like that. Everything, nothing in this planet is like that. Nothing is perfect. There's going to be ups and downs to everything, and my problems are my problems. Doesn't mean whatever I go through is going to be everybody else's, but I'm going to share some information on some issues that I've personally dealt with, and I hope that maybe this might help any of you who are watching me who are mixed like myself, who have been dealing with any issues, or are curious on if you're alone or not, or what it's like for me to be mixed and to be practicing these kind of practices. So I've dealt with a lot of colorism, being initiated because of the color of my skin. A majority of people who do practice these practices tend to be darker skin if they practice Ifa, but if they practice other like more like Latin backgrounds, they do tend to have the same color as me. So this is something that I kind of question. Like, I don't. Some people who practice more like the Latin background have the same color as me, so I don't understand why I'm still dealing with the colorism thing. My personal experience is that I've dealt with a lot of people telling me that I am not dark skinned enough to practice, and that that I'm white. I shouldn't be practicing. So I'm sure if you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm mixed. I am mixed. My mom's second language was English. I'm actually first generation on what we call the mainland, which is America, the Newfoundland. First generation. All my family is on the islands. My father, who I haven't seen since I was 3 years old, is German, and my mother is from the Philippine Islands, and her background is Spanish and African. So that is my background, if anybody is questioning it. I'm not sure why people don't see that I'm mixed. I don't know if this, like, they have a black and white mind, and they're like, oh, if you're not black, you're white. I don't know what the situation is. There's also, like, that whole one drop rule, I don't know where you come from, but I want to talk about ancestry, the concept of ancestors. So, if you were to get initiated into any of these practices, whether it's Ifa, Lokumi, Agboni, Vodun, any of these backgrounds, you have to get a reading prior to being initiated, because you have to know which Orishas or which spirits you are connected to the most, and you have to know what your spirit's calling is. And the only way you can know your spirit's calling is if you get a reading done. Therefore, everybody who's ever been initiated to any of these practices has got a reading done, or how would you know, how to initiate them if they didn't get a reading done? So people who's been initiated should know this. So I don't know why people act like they don't know this. For those of you who have not been initiated, just so you know, you do need to get a reading done prior to see what your purpose is. And if your higher purpose is to be initiated, then it is. And everyone isn't supposed to be a priest or priestess. Some people just get initiated just for protection. Some people get initiated just to heal. Not only physical aspects, but emotional, mental aspects. And some people are meant to be priests and priestesses and guides and stuff like that. Everyone's purpose is different. And some people aren't supposed to be initiated at all. Some people don't have a right to. And just to let everybody know, it has nothing to do with the color of your skin. It really doesn't. The only way you could be initiated is if you were approved through your higher purpose, through a reading, and Arumala, who is the voice of God, will approve of everybody who has been initiated. He approves them, and also your ancestors. So anybody who does go through this is approved through their ancestors. I'm sure a lot of people have noticed that some people practice and they look really white, as in blue eyes and blonde hair. Way lighter than me, and white skin, and they practice. And I'm sure a lot of people wonder, like, well, why are they practicing? They're practicing because they were approved by Arunmala, who is the voice of God, and that they were approved through their ancestors, who obviously they have some ancestors who's practiced, or they wouldn't have been brought to a person to initiate them in the first place. Everything happens for a reason, and it's obviously in their soul contract to be initiated. If it's not in their soul contract to practice any of this, then they wouldn't be doing it, and they wouldn't be approved through initiation in the first place. And a lot of people don't know that, who are not initiated, but everybody who is initiated do know that. So dealing with colorism and to be told that I can't practice, I've dealt with it a lot, but I'd have to say, since I've been initiated into Obatala, it doesn't bother me anymore. It used to really affect me, it used to really hurt me, and it used to make me want to fight. But now that I've been initiated into Obatala and I got crowned Obatala, I don't get bothered by it anymore. It can be a little annoying, when people think like that and treat other people like that, but it doesn't interrupt my peace like it used to, because Obatala is with me all the time, and he brings me a lot of peace and acceptance that when I hear people who don't accept me, it really doesn't matter, and these are my personal experiences. This is the negative falls I've had to deal with being initiated. Also, another thing that I've had to deal with is also people confusing the fact of telling people that they shouldn't be speaking to Orishas. So there's a difference. So this is something that Obatala has told me during my initiation. I was secluded for 3 days with his altar, and I've asked questions about not only my personal life, but my struggles within the priesthood. And the answer that he gave me was this. He said, nobody has a right to tell anyone if they can, or if they should or shouldn't speak to Orisha. So this basically means that you don't have a right, or anybody has a right, unless they do an official reading to say if they should or shouldn't. So there's a difference between telling somebody you should or shouldn't versus telling somebody you do or don't know how to. Okay, let me repeat that really quick. There is a difference between telling somebody you should or shouldn't speak to Orisha versus you do or don't know how to speak to Orisha. So this is the struggle that I've realized that's not only through people who are initiated, but through people who are not initiated, is a confusion of thinking that you should or shouldn't speak to Orisha. Now, the only way you're going to find out if you should or shouldn't is if you get a reading done. Or you will know if an Orisha speaks to you when you hear them out of the blue, No human trumps Orisha, unless it's their own Ori or their own self, of course. But I mean, if an Orisha approaches you and speaks to you, and you didn't even call on them, and you're seeing all these signs that an Orisha is contacting you and trying to speak to you, who is a human to tell you that the Orisha shouldn't speak to you? You see what I'm saying? These are gods. These are forces of nature that are so massive that no human can really understand the massiveness of them. Everything that we do understand is still minimal compared to what they really are. So therefore, the message that Obatala is telling me is nobody has a right to tell anybody if they should or shouldn't. Do not confuse the fact of should or shouldn't versus do you know how to or not. There's a difference. Yes, there are warnings, because yes, there are hot Orishas. If you used to contact them incorrectly, you could deal with some backlash from them if they feel like they're being disrespected. But this is why you speak to people who are experienced. And my advice to any of you, if you would like to work with the Orishas, do not ask advice from a person who just wants money from you. Okay? You'll be able to know the difference between a person who just wants money from you and a person who really wants the best for you. So there's a difference between priests and priestesses who are really in it because it's their higher purpose, and they really not only want to do everything they can to bring peace in their own life, but to also help others find peace within their own life as well. Versus people who just do it for the occult knowledge, or because they want to have a title, or because they want to take money from people. Please know the difference, and you could tell by the way they speak to you and by the way they act. So, if you would like to work with the Orishas, my advice to you is to just be mindful of who you're speaking to. Just like any other religion or any other practice out there, there's going to be good people, there's going to be corrupt people, and people in between. It just is. There is no religion that trumps truth. Okay? Not even this that I practice doesn't trump truth either. And people in this practice can be religious as well. But there's a lot of great people who practice as well. There's a lot of people who practice that are just really honestly good people, and they don't care about the money. Of course, you got to take care of yourself and, put a roof over your head and pay your bills and stuff. But there's a lot of people who practice that really honestly just want people to have a better life. And they want to share the wisdom that they learned with other people and do what they can to help other people ascend as well. So I hope any of you out there who are watching this want to be involved. Just be mindful of who you speak to. There are a lot of good people and there are a lot of corrupt people out there as well. So just know the difference between shouldn't speak to Orisha versus you just don't know how to speak to Orisha. But yes, there is a warning. Please be mindful of how you approach them. Please ask advice from people who are experienced before ever trying to approach an Orisha. And if an Orisha approaches you before you ever approach them, never feel guilty. Don't let anybody out there make you feel guilty for being approached by a deity, because a lot of people who get initiated either already have these gifts, and some people go through initiation so they can have the gifts, And one of my experience of this, as I'm sure if you guys have been following me for a while, I've been sharing information on how to speak to the Neteru. If you don't know who the Neteru is, the Neteru are basically Egyptian gods. So I've been sharing a lot of information on the Neteru and the Orishas for a while, and I've actually been involved with the Neteru way before, for years, even before I even got back to living in Washington State. When I was living in Virginia years ago, that I was sharing a lot of information, and the Neteru contacted me and giving me all kinds of information about the future and about building pyramids and all that kind of stuff. So I happen to be one of those people who actually have a lot of those gifts prior to being initiated. My personal experience of that is I've been dealing with a lot of jealous people. A lot of people get really jealous at the fact that I could speak to the Neteru, the Loa, and the Orishas without ever being initiated, and they easily come talk to me. I have a lot of voice power, or ashe, that I could say their name, and being able to call them in the ether. I call it like, it's kind of like, I see the universe kind of like string theory, where I see strings attached to everything and everyone, and especially souls. The Neteru and the Orishas are like their own energy. Therefore, because I do aura readings, I kind of use the same concept as I do when I do an aura reading. I could see someone's aura, and I could read them, and I could actually find them in the ether somewhere and call their aura forward. Therefore, I could read their aura and tell them who they are, their imbalances and balances and whatnot. I basically use the same exact technique for calling the Neteru and the Orishas, where I could say their name and I could find their aura or their energy in the ether. Now, if I've never met their aura, I have no idea how I do it. I don't know how I call on their aura. Prior to meeting, it's just a gift that I have, and I've always had. I was born with this gift. I've never had to take any classes. I've never had to ask anybody how to do it. It just comes to me naturally. I've always been an empath, and I've learned how to master that empathic gift. But something that I realize is a lot of people get really jealous of the position that you're in when you do stuff like this. I've dealt with a lot of people getting angry at me and telling me that I can't do this and I can't do that, and because I'm not initiated, or telling me that I could only stay at this certain level because of what level I'm at, and people just saying all kinds of rude, disrespectful things to me about not only the color of my skin, but my wisdom, and putting me down. These are a lot of things that I've dealt with. Now that I'm initiated into Obatala, I feel like I'm one with him now. And as a person who is one with Obatala, the message I have for people who do this is they obviously have a lot of healing to do. And we really have to stop comparing ourselves to other people. I've learned to really appreciate people who are more advanced than me. because who am I supposed to ask? If there's nobody ever more advanced than me, who am I supposed to ask for advice? And when somebody's more advanced than me, they're brought to me because I'm supposed to learn from them. And they were brought to me on purpose. Nothing is coincidence. So I appreciate it. And I think that we need to learn to appreciate people who are more advanced than us. And if somebody comes to us and they ask advice from us, I feel like as a person who is initiated into Obatala, it's my purpose to give those people enlightened advice and not to judge them or criticize them, which I was having an issue with criticism prior to being initiation, because I came from an abusive household. I am melanated, therefore I've dealt with a lot of melanated abuse from an abusive mother, and it turned me into a criticizing person because I'm so used to being criticized all the time. And something that Obatala taught me is that when we criticize people, we attract more criticism to ourselves because what we give is what we attract. And I know as a melanated person, we go through a lot of things where we go through a lot more emotional pain, and our parents tend to be a little more abusive than not as melanated people because due to colonialism, which causes a lot of us to have emotional issues, mental issues, and even money issues, because of colonialism and stuff like that. But I've realized maybe it's a lesson. I had to ask myself, maybe I went through all this criticism of people in the priesthood judging me for the color of my skin and judging me and putting me down for my gifts. Maybe it was a lesson that I need to learn, and that's something that I've been asking myself. Maybe I needed it for a little bit. That way I know not to treat people that way, But this has been my experience. Everything isn't unicorns and butterflies. Being initiated has definitely helped me grow. It has brought me a lot of peace. And I did go through these negative things during the process. And anybody who ever goes through it will have their negative things that they go through and their positive things. But I've overcome it, and I feel like I've went through it for a reason, But it's over now. I mean, I don't really deal with it anymore. Ever since I've been initiated, I haven't had anybody really criticize me about the color of my skin at all. I haven't anybody criticize me for speaking to any netters or Orishas that I'm not initiated into. I haven't dealt with it, but I've also haven't been making a lot of videos recently too. I guess we'll see. But the whole point of being initiated is to not have to deal with that anymore. Is to not have to fight people like that. Is what they do is they push that energy away from you. So when you do get initiated, all this energy that used to disturb our peace, get in our way, make us want to fight, make us feel miserable, make us feel depressed, make us feel incomplete, all that energy goes away through initiation. And I have been feeling super peaceful and one with myself and one with my new Orisha since then. So my personal experience with getting initiated with Obatala is, like I said earlier, Obatala is the Orisha of the white cloth. So what that means is basically, if you think about the whole entire universe, the universe is covered with a cloth, a white cloth, which is what some people would say, like the light that connects everything. That's basically who Obatala is. So that's my head Orisha, and that's who I got initiated into. I have to say so I can't give initiation secrets. I can't really tell anybody step by step what really happened because it's bad juju. I'm not supposed to do that. It's a secret. If you want to know, you just got to get initiated yourself. So I would have to say it was pretty intense. I feel like I actually almost soulfully left for a little bit. I feel like I wasn't all the way there, but I was, if that makes sense. Like I feel like people would talk to me and I would kind of hear them talking to me, but there was something in me that didn't want to respond, or it was kind of echoey, which is weird. I was almost like in a dream state for 3 whole days. It was a 3-day process. The morning I woke up from my initiation after the 3rd day, on the morning of the 3rd day, I felt like I was like, oh, I'm back. This is what it feels like to be me. It was really weird, but it's like when I was mentally, or not mentally, but soulfully kind of gone for a little bit, I didn't realize it until I came back again, if that makes any sense. So I remember somebody saying to me, my spouse was there and he was like, hi. And I looked at him and I was like I knew what he said, but for some reason I couldn't respond. Like I was in another realm or something like that. And he said, I said hi. And I was like, oh, hi. It was really weird. But the process was pretty deep. I have to say the most extreme moment was my Baba had me pray to a coconut. Okay, so he told me to pray to this coconut, and I was inside an area that was covered in white, and I was in white, and the whole area that I was in was white because Obatala is the Orisha white cloth. So he told me to pray to this coconut and pray for all the negative things, for all my fears to go away. So I prayed to this coconut and I listed all my fears, everything I was scared of. And when I was done, he took the coconut and he went out with the coconut. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. This TikTok just popped up and took everything over. Okay, I'm back. So what my Baba did is he had me pray. He had me pray to a coconut and give all of my fears to this coconut, and he took the coconut away. I'm not sure what he did with the coconut. I'm gonna suppose maybe he broke it. I don't know. I'm gonna suppose that. It was the most emotional experience that I had. That I felt like everything that I feared completely rushed out of me. I started crying, and it was like it was super emotional. And out of the whole time I was during the whole 3 days, that was the most emotional time for me. And what's crazy is when my Baba walked in, he said, "You felt it, did you?" And I was like, "I don't know what I felt, but yeah, I felt it." Yeah, it was the most emotional experience that I had during my initiation. Was when I prayed and I gave all my fears to the coconut, and then he did whatever it is that he did, and whatever ritual he did to help get rid of those fears. And it worked because I don't feel fearful anymore. A lot of the stuff I was fearing in regards to any hiccups in family life or business or whatever, everything, relationship, stuff like that, everything went away. And ever since I got initiated and I left I left that space, that white space that they had me in for 3 days, I haven't felt any of those fears bother me since then. And it was the most extreme time. Other times when I want to say it, but I can't. There's other times where I felt like I was like, "Whoa, this is extreme," and I'm looking around to see what's going on, and it sucks that I want to say things, but I know I'm not supposed to. But there are some pretty extreme situations where the Orisha came and spoke to me during these experiences and stuff. But I do know that once I left, I was a completely different person. So after my initiation, some things that I realized is that I don't crave for alcohol like I used to. I was raised in a household where there's a lot of alcohol involved. I used to be an alcoholic. I fell into being a really bad alcoholic when my mom passed away in 2008. And but I did stop drinking heavily probably a couple years after, my mom passed away. I probably stopped drinking heavily about 2010. But after that, I think when I came back to Washington, I still had some issues where I feel like I kind of wanted to drink. And I'm sure some of you are watching this know how it feels that sometimes when you have one drink, you kind of want to have another and stuff like that. And ever since I got initiated, I don't feel like that anymore. I could have one drink and I'm like, okay, I'm cool, I'm done. I could go somewhere and hang out, and I don't feel like I have to rush and have another drink. I don't feel like I have to rush home and have a drink anymore like I used to. That feeling has completely left. I'll still, drink a little bit, but it doesn't control me like it used to. A lot of things that I used to be angry about and used to bother me doesn't bother me anymore. I had issues to where it's like if I had to share my emotions and share my feelings, I used to get really nervous. Or if somebody reacted in a way that they didn't agree, I would get very emotional because I was abused growing up, that I had a lot of PTSD and triggers of somebody not agreeing with me, of being abused. So I would get very emotional, upset with somebody. If I feel like somebody was disagreeing with me because I didn't know what was going to happen next, it's an automatic response. So if you're an abused child, it's an automatic response to subconsciously feel like you're going to be abused if somebody doesn't agree with you. And this is PTSD from being a child of an abusive home. And that's really common with anybody who's been through that. I was struggling with that a lot. And because of it, it was hard for me to share my emotions. And if I was to finally kind of have the courage to share my emotions, it was hard for me to handle somebody saying no to me, or me being able to respond in a healthy, non-emotional manner, to be able to explain my feelings. It's normal for people to not understand what you're saying because they're reflecting their feelings onto you. I used to not be able to handle that very well. And since I got initiated into Obatala, I realized my speaking skills to be able to communicate my emotions are completely different now. I had a situation with somebody. I had a conversation with her about the way she was responding to me, and we had a conversation. And I noticed she didn't agree with me, but instead of me getting upset about it, I explained my point of view, and I was willing to listen to her point of view, even if I didn't agree, without getting upset about it. And being able to try to understand her point of view, and being able to explain my point of view without prying or forcing, and without ignoring her point of view. And that's a really hard place to be at. That's the part of the human experience, is to be able to reach that point in life, is to be able to master that communication skill. And since I have been initiated into Obatala, I have basically feel like I've like almost, I can't say mastered, but almost mastered that ability to be able to speak on my emotions, and to be able to understand another person's emotions without getting emotional, upset myself, or without it even bothering me at all if they don't agree, or if there's some kind of miscommunication, and to have the patience and understanding and the ability to re-explain something if the miscommunication is on the other end, you know? And that's definitely something that has changed a lot since I got initiated. A lot of people, from my coworkers to my spouse to my family, has told me that they feel like I'm a completely different person. They feel like I'm way more calmer. I've had people message me on Facebook and say they realize I'm so much calmer. Obatala has definitely cooled my head. I definitely don't feel as bothered by things. I don't even feel very bothered by all this coronavirus and all this news and all this stuff that's going on out with this pandemic right now. When people contact me and I don't agree, it's much easier for me to ignore people. It's much easier for me to explain things in a much straightforward concept without getting upset or over explaining, which is what a lot of us do, which is what I used to do, is to over explain or keep repeating, trying to get the point across and ignoring the other person. That I don't deal with that anymore. And I've noticed that I get a lot more respect from people now, that being initiated into Obatala is attracting a lot more people towards me that have nothing but respect for me now. I'm not dealing with a lot of disrespect anymore like I was before. I have notes here to see what I want to talk about. Hold on one second. I'm trying to see where I'm at. I want to see what I want to talk about. Hold on one second. Give me 1 second. Oh, before this is gonna be my last subject. I just want to talk about my Obatala's personality. So I'm actually connected to Ajaguna Obatala. So Ajaguna Obatala is actually more like, he is the warrior aspect of Obatala. If you look into him, if you Google him, you'll notice that Obatala has to do with a lot of peace and serenity, and this is the warrior aspect of Obatala. So I do have a lot of warrior energy in me, so that's why he's connected to me, and that's who I'm associated with. I noticed he's very, very straightforward. Getting used to being crowned in Orisha, I've noticed that since I've been crowned, I hear him a lot. I don't have to go to his altar. I do go to his altar to speak to him and show respects, but I don't have to hear him communicate, because I was crowned him. That if I have any questions, that I could basically kind of close my eyes and go in and ask him anything. He's there all the time, and it's different to feel like I'm sharing my headspace with an Orisha, even though we all have Orishas connected to us. And we all have Orishas that can speak to us through our mind. But I know that. But it's a lot different when you get crowned. At least this is from my personal experience of being crowned Obatala is definitely a lot different than just praying to him not being crowned Obatala. He literally, it's almost like feeling like talking to someone on the phone versus having someone have their face pressed up onto you and you're hugging them all day long every day. That's the difference between speaking to Obatala not initiated versus being crowned Obatala and speaking to him. That's what my personal experience has been. My version is a hymn. Obatala can be a female as well on some roads of Obatala, but my personal one is Adraguna, which is a male aspect of Obatala. And he's very straightforward. I noticed that he doesn't use a whole lot of words like and, then, but, if that makes any sense. He doesn't go on and on and on. If I was to ask him any advice or any questions, he doesn't talk a lot. He's very straightforward, and that's it. I'll ask him one thing, he'll say one sentence, and that sentence will answer everything that I just asked. He knows how to get that information out. Very straightforward. He's more serious. He's definitely not as goofy as like Eshu Alegba is. You know, he teaches me a lot of patience. I noticed that I even drive a lot smoother since I've been initiated. I don't drive as crazy as I used to. I don't feel like I need to be in a hurry as much. And when I do feel like I'm in a hurry, it bothers me because Obatala is with me, and Obatala hates being rushed. So I don't want to say hate, but doesn't like being rushed. So I noticed that if I'm rushed, it makes me feel distraught because Obatala is with me all the time. So I noticed that I don't rush anymore. I'm a lot more patient, and I actually drive a lot smoother now. I cruise now instead of weave or speed, even though I speed, but I'm more, it's hard to explain, but I just don't drive as aggressive as I used to. I noticed since I've been initiated as well because of the personality of Obatala. But that's all the information I have. I can't think of any other information that I can give in regards to my experience of being initiated. If you have any questions for me, you could hurry up and shoot a comment really quick, or just shoot me a message on my inbox, and I'll answer it for you to the best of my acknowledgement as I can, and if I'm allowed to. You know, some things are secret, and if some is not. Before I close out, I wanted to let everybody know that we need to understand the difference between secret and what's not secret. So this is a situation that I've dealt with being initiated, as some initiates and some non-initiates don't understand the difference between secret and not secret. So when you get initiated, you are initiated into the secrets of Orishas and secrets of the practice, as in rituals, prayers, consecrated altars, stuff like that. Everything that you could find online, from like offers to colors to where you could give offers to them, that's not secret. That's basically their basic personalities, their traits, what they like, what they don't like, and stuff like that. Those aren't secrets, obviously, because you could find them online. The secrets are the things that you learn if you are an initiate. The difference between being an initiate and not an initiate is when you do get initiated, the forces of nature, as in the Orishas and the practice you do, are basically like times 10. That's basically what it is. Does this mean that you cannot do work with Orishas unless you're initiated? Yes and no. It depends. Yes, if it's in your soul's purpose. No, if you expect it to work just as well if you are an initiate. So it has to be in your purpose to be able to work with the Orishas. And it works way better if you are initiated. And I don't care how psychic you are, and how much you meditate, and how much of a higher purpose you believe you have, and how much self-initiation you believe you went through with any Orisha. Whatever work that you do will not be nearly as strong if you were initiated. And a lot of people really don't understand that until they're initiated, because a lot of people think, well, I could talk to Orishas now, so why should I have to be initiated? Because the reason why if you want to do more work with them and you want the work to work really powerfully, as in you could see the outcome of it happening the day of or the next day to the max, you would need to know the secrets of the Orishas to be able to do that. And you can meditate all you want and learn things, but you're never going to get the answers through meditation as though you were getting them through the priesthood, because you just can't. It's part of a soul contract, and the Orishas are also part of these soul contracts, as in they would want you to meet people who have been in the practice for much longer than yourself for you to learn these practices. And we have to put our ego down. A lot of people don't want to put their ego down. They're like, well, I know everything. I can do it myself. That's ego. There's always going to be somebody else out there who knows more than you, who could teach you something. And it's okay for us. We could still have a high title in the spirit realm and learn from other people. And that system pride we all got to let go, whether you're initiated or not. So one thing that I do not agree with is throwing titles at people. Something that I realized since I've been initiated is I have never went up to somebody and said, well, I'm initiated to Obatala. I have never felt the need to say that to anybody since I've been initiated. Probably because Obatala energy wouldn't allow me to. And because my soul doesn't feel like it's right. I don't feel like it's okay to throw titles at people. I feel like it doesn't matter what title you are, that we should always treat people as equal to us, whether they're initiated or not, and whether they were just initiated 5 minutes ago or if they were initiated 50 years ago. Everybody should be respected regardless, and a title doesn't give anybody the right to talk down to people or to boss people around or to tell them anything that they have no rights to tell them, especially if they've never done a reading on them at all. So that's my perspective on being initiated. And for anybody who is initiated or who is not initiated, if anybody has been curious about it, I hope this helps anybody who's curious about it. It has been an experience, and I wouldn't take it away for the world. I am planning on getting initiated into Ogun a year from now, and I'm super excited. And many more other initiations after that. But my next one, I'm planning on getting initiated into Ogun, unless my soul says to do something else, but we'll see. Until then, I hope everyone is having an enlightened night. And if you are curious with being initiated, if you are curious with which Orisha has your head or which Orisha has your feet, and you would like to get a reading, feel free to shoot me a message on my inbox. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and message me on Facebook at Mind of Ro or at The Mind of Ro. I have 2 pages. Either one is going to work for me. And just let me know if you're interested, if you would like to know if it's in your soul purpose to be able to be working with Orishas or Netaru or not. Just shoot me a message and let me know, and we could set an appointment up to find out who your Orishas are and what your purpose is as well. So peace out, everybody, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mind of Ro, and I hope everybody has a safe and good night. Adabo.